I was about 3 weeks into my first job when I realized that I had made a huge mistake. I had spent so much time, years, trying to chase a high-paying job that I thought would make me happy. Financial security, independence, and finally having that feeling like I made it. I eventually, quote unquote, got it, the good salary, the benefits, and I was able to move out of my parents' place and be independent. I should have been happy, but I came to the realization one day that I was honestly miserable. So I did what I thought was logical. I started working more overtime, because I was under the impression that more money should make me more happy. If I just pushed harder and worked more, then one day I thought I'd feel fulfilled. But the more I made, the more exhausted I became. I go to work early in the morning, come back, and the only thing I'd have energy for is going to the gym. And then I come home, make dinner, scroll on my phone or watch Netflix, and then go to sleep. And for some people, I know that's the dream. And for the longest time, I thought that was my dream. I thought that's what I wanted. But each day just felt so empty, like something was missing. And eventually I had no energy for my friends, for my hobbies, my creative pursuits, my side quests, and basically anything that made me feel alive. I was essentially building myself a prison and calling it success. So here's a test that made me realize how bad it had gotten. So think of a typical Tuesday. How many hours would you fast forward through if you could? For me, I realized that it was almost all of them. I wanted to skip the entire day. I would just survive until the weekend, and then I would survive the weekend until Sunday, dreading Monday. And that's when it finally hit me that I had been solving the wrong problem. I thought that the problem was not enough money, so I kept chasing more. But the real problem was that I'm a builder. I've known this for my entire life, that I love creating things. I need to build things to feel alive. And I had essentially created a life with zero room for that. I wasn't scratching the itches of things that actually mattered to me, like entrepreneurship, creativity, building things that expanded my world. I traded all of those things for a paycheck, and I was wondering why I felt empty. The shift happened when I stopped asking, how do I make more money? And started asking, how do I design a life that allows me to create? That's when I started this YouTube channel. Not because it pays well, because trust me, it does not. But because it finally gave me something to look forward to, something that made Tuesday matter again for me. So here's what I've learned. Fulfilling lives aren't built by things that we think will make us happy. They're built by correctly identifying what actually fills our cup and then creating space for it. What I've learned is that the people who love their lives aren't the ones that have escaped their problems. They're the ones who got honest about what their problem actually is. So today I'm sharing 3 major shifts that helped me stop building a life that I wanted to escape from and start building a life that I'm now excited to wake up for. All right, guys, I'm gonna get to the gym, but we'll get into the first point on the way. So this morning I had an appointment with a physical therapist because I've been having this crazy back pain. So last week I had a soccer game, and then when I came back and showered, I lay down on my bed for a little bit and I literally could not get up. And that was a very scary experience. I was laying down for like 30 minutes before I could get up. And I've had instances like that before, but this was probably the worst it's gotten. A couple days after that, I went to New York and I just had this pain radiating down my legs on both sides. So I went to a physical therapist, they did a bunch of tests, and it turns out that your boy has a weak core. So I have a 6-pack, but it's just for show. So they said that I'm gonna have to do a lot more core strengthening exercises, because once one part of your body is weak, it starts to affect the rest of your body, which I'm sure you guys know. And I knew this, but I just been procrastinating and kind of just being lazy with training my core. Gonna have to make some changes to my workout plan. You guys can learn the lesson from me. Start now training your core, and all the muscles that you think aren't important, start focusing on those muscles, because when one part starts to lack, it starts to affect the rest of your body. So you're gonna have to make some changes. Okay guys, before we go, let's get into the first shift I made, which is that you have to move away from what society tells you should make you happy and start asking yourself, what actually fills my cup? The problem is that most people chase what society tells them should make them happy. So money, status, security, the right career, things like that. But then they get there and they achieve those things and they wonder why they still feel empty. And I understand, because I did this. I chased the high-paying job because I thought that's what success looked like. I thought it was as simple as getting the salary, getting the stability, and then somehow I just magically would be happy and satisfied with my life. And I do realize that our families and society tells us to do these things, at least our families do, because they have our best interests in mind and they want the best for us. Especially coming from an immigrant family, that's all my parents knew was education. Chasing things like becoming a doctor, going into law or engineering. They want us to pursue these things because they don't want us to go through what they went through, which is understandable. But what I've come to realize is that money is just part of the equation. Here's what I didn't understand and what I didn't take into consideration, which is that I'm a builder and I feel most alive when I'm taking something from 0 to 1 or working on something that didn't exist before. And the crazy part is that the times where I felt the most alive weren't the times where I was making the most money. It was the times where I was being creative and creating, like when I was making the Shopify stores back in college. Even though I was making no money and actually losing a lot of money, I felt so energized. I would wake up every day excited for the day because I knew that I was creating something. And I realized that no paycheck and what I'm doing now full time is not going to ever really scratch that itch for me. And that's okay. So here's the shift. Stop asking what should I want and start asking yourself what makes me feel alive. Not what your parents want or what looks impressive on LinkedIn, but what actually energizes you. For me, like I said, it's building, but for you, it might be teaching or being in nature, dancing, solving complex problems, or connecting with people on a deeper level. And if you can't figure it out, just think over the last month and ask yourself, when did you genuinely feel energized? And not just happy or comfortable, but alive. Write those moments down and look for the pattern, because that's your itch. And once you figure it out, you can start building your life around it instead of wondering why success feels so empty. Okay, so the second shift that I made was making the decision to just get started. A trap that I see a lot of people fall into is thinking that you have to wait until conditions are perfect until you do what matters. We tell ourselves that when we get promoted, then we'll start. Or when I pay off my debt, which was a big one for me having gone to grad school, that then I'll be able to free up the resources to invest in this thing. Or when things settle down, then I'll finally have the time to invest in this. But the truth is that that perfect day never comes, and conditions are never optimal for you to get started on something. And if that's what you're waiting for, then you'll be waiting forever. I told myself the same thing, that I would start YouTube when I had more time, or that I would start when I had the perfect camera and the perfect setup, the perfect lighting, and all these things that I thought were important, but really were just excuses for me to not get started and to continue to procrastinate. But I remember one day I got so fed up with just dreading my life and not feeling inspired that I just decided to get started. And I set up my iPhone camera, and you guys can go watch it. It's one of my very first videos. The quality is so terrible, but I didn't even know what I was gonna talk about, but I just started. And that was the beginning of everything. Here's the thing, YouTube wasn't paying me anything, and I was turning down overtime hours that had a direct result, meaning I'd make extra money if I just spent time at work. But I was turning down those overtime days to invest in something that was a passion project for me. And I'm sure everyone around me thought that was crazy. Like, why would I choose to make less money to make videos that no one is watching? But it was because it finally made me excited about life again. Like, I was getting back to my purpose and finally doing something that actually mattered to me. And I realized that if I would have waited any longer, I would have completely lost that wave of inspiration and momentum completely. So what I've learned is that the things that fill your cup aren't luxuries to be added when you have extra time. They're necessities that need to be protected at all costs. You don't need more time. You just need to treat your fulfillment time as non-negotiable. So here's what you do if you're really serious about this. Block off 2 hours a week, not when you have time, but right now. Put it in your calendar and defend it like it matters, because it really does. And don't expect any huge leaps of momentum or progress from this time. Just focus on dedicating that time to yourself and to what matters to you. So turn down the overtime, say no to the binges on Netflix. There will be time for that, it's just not right now. Say no to the things that don't move your life forward in a meaningful way for you. Because the choice isn't between making money or doing the things you love. It's between building a life you're excited about or building a life that you want to escape from. And that choice starts today, not someday. The third shift that I made, which I kind of alluded to earlier, is that instead of thinking about escaping your life, you have to start thinking about how you can design your life. Because when we're miserable, we often think about escape. So we fantasize about quitting the job or moving cities, basically burning everything that we've built down and starting over. But the truth is that most of the time, you don't need to blow everything up. You just need to redesign. Because even if you quit the job or if you move cities, you'll still be you. You'll carry your thoughts, your beliefs, and your actions with you wherever you go. So even if you move to another city, you'll just end up building that same prison around you again. So no, I didn't quit my job. I kept it. I worked hard to get my job, so I wasn't going to just throw it away like that. But the decision that I made is that I stopped allowing it to consume my life. I decided to build YouTube around my work schedule, create a situation where my job was funding my passions rather than replacing it. So that's a big shift that you have to make. Stop treating your circumstances like a cage and start looking at it like an opportunity. You can't always change your job, your location, or your responsibilities, but you can change what you say yes to and where you allow your energy to flow. So here's how to do this. First, look at your current restraints, your work hours, your commitments, and your non-negotiables. Now ask yourself, even with these restraints, how can I design a week that includes what actually matters to me? For me, I work 4 days a week, 10-hour shifts, so 40 hours a week, but it's compressed into 4 days. And I made the decision that on my day off, that would be my dedicated content creation day. So when they would offer me overtime at work, I would say no. And this was a big shift because I was working a lot of overtime. But once I identified my problem and I realized that I was lacking in this area of creativity and building, I realized that I had to make a shift. So I started to turn down the overtime opportunities and the ability to make more money so I could focus on what actually mattered. And even when other things would come up, like hangouts with friends even, not always, but some of the time, I would say no. And it wasn't because the money or because these other things weren't important to me, but it was because I had made a commitment to myself that I wanted to honor. Protecting that commitment is what keeps me from wanting to hit that fast forward button on my life. When you get clear about what matters, you start automatically being ruthless about protecting it. You stop saying yes to everything and start saying yes to the right things. So here's my challenge to you. Stop waiting for the perfect moment. Stop telling yourself that you'll start when you have more time, more energy, or more money. Find 2 to 4 hours this week, just 2 to 4, and spend them doing things that make you feel alive. Not the thing that looks good on paper or the thing that impresses people, but the thing that makes a random Tuesday matter. Because what I realized is that you're not going to stumble into a life you love. You have to build it. 1 hour at a time, one choice at a time, one yes to something that matters and one no to something that doesn't. And a year from now, you can either have a life that you look forward to waking up for, or you'll still be hitting that fast forward button. The only difference starts with what you do this week. So what's it gonna be? All right, guys, go ahead and comment down below what you feel like you've been escaping and the shift that you want to make this week in order to stop having a life that you're escaping and have a life that you're actually excited to wake up for. But if you made it all the way to the end, like always, I appreciate you. Every like, every subscribe, everything, it really helps out the channel. I'm just very grateful for you guys. I will see you guys in the next video, but until then, you already know, don't drift.